for staying with us. Today, being 19th of November, is International Men's Day, often called World Men's Day, celebrated every year on this day, 19th of November. It's a global day set aside to recognize the positive contribution that men and boys make to their families, communities, and society.
The day is almost meant to raise awareness about the health and well-being of men, promote gender equality, and highlight challenges that men face that are often overlooked. International Men's Day encourages conversations about issues with mental health, suicide prevention, fatherhood, positive male role models, and the importance of healthy relationships.
It reminds the world that men also experience pressure, stress, and expectations from society that can affect their emotional and physical health. This day focuses on promoting responsible, respectful, and caring masculinity, encouraging men to live positively, support one another, and be active contributors to peace and progress.
Another goal of International Men's Day is to celebrate the men who are making a difference: fathers, mentors, teachers, leaders, caregivers, and everyday men who play meaningful roles in people's lives. It also supports efforts to improve men's access to health services, provide support for boys in school, reduce violence, and promote harmony between genders.
Overall, World Men's Day is not about elevating men above women. It's about acknowledging that men also have unique experiences and challenges that deserve attention. It aims to encourage kindness, responsibility, and respect while building a world where men and women work together for equality, understanding, and well-being. And with that, we have with us in the studio this morning two guests here to talk about this celebration, looking at the stereotypes around men and which ones are the facts and which ones are the fictions. We have Onyeka Chukwu Asadu. He's the CEO, the Building Boys Academy, and we have Onyeka Chi Anochironye, Senior Sales Manager, Tennessee Professional Services. You're both very much welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're both welcome. Good morning.
Happy
too.
International Men's Day to all the men out there.
So why are we not seeing flowers on the internet?
Flowers.
You don't.
I mean,
you don't really receive
when it's
flowers
with-
this
when it's
morning.
with
No
women, we hear a lot
chocolates,
of noise
nothing.
and everything,
Maybe
but we're not
checks.
hearing-
Checks will be more stimulating.
When you even wish.
An alert. An alert.
You see, that's the difference with men and
Yeah,
women. The
yeah,
little
yeah.
things go a long way for women. But men, you see, I was talking about alerts and checks. Who has one here? Okay, so bottom line is men don't cry. Facts or fictions? Do men cry? Do you cry? Don't you cry?
Well, let's start with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
A happy International Men's Day. It's interesting. I've been thinking about it. Do men cry? I think we're human beings first. I think we should cry when we need to cry. If I lose my father like I did in 2023, naturally, I'm going to miss him forever. He won't be there to mentor me as a father because my dad is first my mentor. Emotionally, I should cry. Naturally, it triggers something in me. So men do cry.
Okay.
It should be a natural consequence. I
Is
mean,
it
when
just in
things happen
extreme
around you.
cases that men cry? Don't you cry to relieve stress?
We do, of course. We have emotions. We're human beings. We have a heart. Just like women, need care. Men also need care. So we also need to be. We need affection. We need to be loved and pampered. So yeah.
Let's
Interesting.
hear from you.
Yeah, no, I agree with what my brother said. First of all, I mean, biologically speaking, men have tear glands. Boys have tear glands. So I always ask the question, why do we have tear glands? Is it there for decoration? Of course not. But things that society has kind of put us in a corner. So we see a boy when he's growing up and he's hurt or he has a challenge and comes to the parents and the dad is telling him, man up. I was in the hospital on Saturday and this little boy, about 2 years old, he was receiving an injection. And the father who came with him was, shutting him up and saying, "You are a man, don't cry." I said, "Well, excuse me, this is a boy. He doesn't know what you're talking about. He doesn't know the burden and the responsibility that you have as the father, right?" So telling him to keep quiet, that's how you prepare him, to box things up, and it always leads to one, implosion. So that's why you see a lot of men breaking down in the hospital, because they have to cry so much and they don't get to share, what they have. So it's okay to cry. It's okay to find someone or somewhere where you can lean your shoulders and express your vulnerability. Yeah.
Now, speaking of vulnerability, I'm glad you mentioned that
Yeah.
word. So why then do you think it's important that while we celebrate men, it's also important to talk about their emotional vulnerability? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, men, just like every other human being, have emotions, and the truth is that we've been taught not to express how we feel. We've been taught to, like I said before, just lock it up. But we always suffer the consequences, either health-wise or you go to the psychiatric hospital here, a lot of young men are suffering, not just because they ingested a dangerous substance, but because nobody was paying attention to them. So it becomes a problem when we are not able to identify our emotions, and say, this is what I'm going through right now. It becomes a problem when we don't have a safe space where men and boys can come together and say what is on their mind without being condemned or judged. And where they are also in relationships, whether under their parents or under their loved ones, platonic relationships, family like marriage, or normal boyfriend and girlfriend, where they can express themselves without the fear of, okay, so this is what you have to say, or without being laughed at. So for me, that is one of the ways that we get to encourage boys and men to express themselves, and that reflects the theme for this year, which is supporting boys and men.
All right, so let's look at the genesis of this "men don't cry, it makes you weak" thing. What factors contribute to it? Where you have to, just like you mentioned, at 2 years old, you're telling a boy not to cry, to man up and take the pain. He's just a boy, and that is how it graduates to even when you're an adult. So at what point did we shift from being humans to making men seem supernaturals?
Okay, it starts from from the time the boy is able to communicate. When a boy is born into a family, the family is the first environment of every child normally, and it is the things that he observes that he becomes. So if a boy comes to a family where the father can't express his vulnerability, where if he wants to express himself, his brothers are telling him, keep quiet, you are a man, you shouldn't express. If he has pain, we've seen it even when we're in school. I remember when we were in primary school, if you had pain, they'll be laughing at you. Why are you expressing? These are little, they are little, but it means a lot, because they form building blocks for the kind of man. So you see relationships where the man gets to a marriage and he can't express himself. He doesn't know how to, because he was not taught how to express himself. And that's one of the things we advocate for, that young men should be encouraged to express themselves. They should be able to find. Thank God that mental health counseling is becoming a thing in Nigeria now. It used to be a thing of the Western world. People used to laugh at it. Why are you looking to see some? But now people are beginning to accept it as something that, not just as a profession, but something that people should work with to help their emotional and mental states. So for me, it starts from when from the time a boy is born. Socialization, as he gets integrated into the family, the society, the neighborhood, what kind of relationships is he building? What kind of media is he exposed to? We have media, where media is not just broadcast media now. Movies, cartoons, comics, where the male is seen as superhuman, which is not so. And so those things shape his mindset, and then when he breaks down, people are like, why are you breaking down? One of my friends that works in the National Orthopedic Hospital here was telling me that they did a survey, a study recently, and you have males between 32 and 47 just slumping. They are bringing, even doctors. If a doctor died while seeing patients just I think on Friday, he just slumped. And the funny thing is that when he slumped, he just did his hair like this and slumped, and that was it. And they didn't know. They just maybe he's tired. They didn't know that he had burnt and he had gone. By the time they touched him, he was cold. So you see, so that's why it's important that from the time a boy is born, the father and mother should encourage you to say that, look, your family is your safe space. If anything happens to you, don't feel bad about telling us what you are going through, so that we can provide the support that you need.
Right. Now, when you were speaking before, you mentioned about the theme of this year's celebration,
yes.
supporting men
boys,
and boys.
Yes.
So now I want to ask you, looking at the theme of this year, how does it align with the need to break down this emotional stigma with boys and men?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. For me, first, before I became a man, just like my friend was saying, I was a boy. Now, the kind of a background, the society has so much pressure, expectation from the boy child. The boy child is supposed to be strong, supposed to, be a man, be a man. That's the cliche we always hear. And if we don't allow the boy child express himself, also express that, it starts with self-esteem, it starts with the foundation. What kind, we, like he said, depending on the family background, let me start being personal, right? I'm the last of 7 boys. We're 9, and I'm the last. So there are 7 boys and 2 girls. And I grew up having a family where before I get the share of whatever, maybe they're sharing food, everybody thinks I'm the last to take. I'm the one to wash the plates. And so those things are, so by the time you find yourself growing up, if you don't have the kind of safe space or environment where parents also have a role to play, I have my other ones as mentors. I also have my dad as a role model. I know the effort. While others were out, I spent more time growing up, maybe secondary school, university days. It helped shape my ability to manage my emotions. And also, I didn't have so much. I grew up practically, I didn't go to a boarding school. So it was a different, scenario for me or experience for me. But some other guys who went to boarding schools, you see boys being bullied in school and all kinds of things, seniors being, oppressing the boys, and, all those things happen where the boy child is exposed. All right. So looking at the team and also the fact that emotional stigma can happen, we can actually, which is why we're advocating that boys should, because if the boys are not taken care of and not nurtured and mentored, they get to marry the girls and they get to abuse the girls. They get to, so those are the society issues we deal with when you don't allow the boy to be totally formed, holistically, both mental, emotional and all that, So I think that's one of the things we need to.
Okay, let's look at the responsibility you have as an adult. We understand that this thing shapes you right from being a toddler, but you're an adult now.
Yeah.
Don't you have the responsibility to learn, unlearn, and also relearn certain things?
Yes, exactly. That's why education is there. That's why it's important for us to encourage our boys to read, encourage our teenagers to read. We have the good thing is that we have technology today. So what kind of content do we have on social media to learn? What kind of content are we pushing on? You see a lot of role models. Young people are trying to follow people as role models, and it's not about the likes and the followership. You can have 1 million followers, and you're not making impact to help these young boys grow to become responsible. Part of what we're looking at is how to be responsible, to be respectful, and to also, so part of the things you need to address for the boy child going to support, to get that support from the family and from the school. It's bigger than you can imagine. That's why we're having, if you look at the cases happening recently about girls being kidnapped in school, secondary school in KB, it were guys that did those things. They are boys that maybe they were not properly trained or growing up in their life somewhere something distorted happened, or maybe the exposure, and they are becoming a menace to the society. It's because someone did not take out time to mentor these boys and show them the fact that yes, you need to be strong, but you also need to be a human. You also need to, if I have a good heart, I won't go kidnapping and doing all kinds of vices that are happening today in the society.
Okay,
right. Now, let's try to pick out some of these myths about men's emotional vulnerability and where these myths come from, both culturally and historically. Where do they stem from? And,
Okay.
why is it now so much so into our lives that we are now trying to break free from it?
Yeah, the first one is, the theme of this interview today, that men don't cry. That's one myth that has, affected many for a very long time. Another one is that, that men don't have emotions. So in fact, there are people who go into marriage believing that men don't have emotions, and that is a lie, because every human being, has emotions. Some people believe that men, some people say men don't talk too much. So you see a boy who, right from when he was born, he came out literally talking, and the father is telling him, keep quiet. You are not just telling him to stop talking. You are telling him that he's not relevant, because talking is not just about opening; it's about he's expressing himself. He has found, just like some children come out, they're very good in singing. Some are very good in drawing, and they have artistic tendency that they find. Like I have a friend who, in his house, the second son has literally turned the whole place into a studio. He draws anything that comes to mind. He draws and paints. He's a very little boy, and the guys, they say, no, leave him. he's showing what God has put inside him. So so when you tell a boy not to keep quiet or shut up, you talk too much, you are killing whatever it is, because you don't know whether he's called to be a public leader. You don't know whether he's called to be a lawyer, like we say in these parts, whether he's called into broadcasting. So the job is, if you have seen that this is how he expresses himself, try to guide him, towards the right direction, so that he doesn't miss it. And that norm is that men don't say I'm sorry. It looks small, but it's something. And there are women who are suffering in their relationship because of that kind of thing. Say,
Sorry.
That is wrong. A man, just like a woman should be able to apologize for doing wrong, a man should be able to apologize for doing wrong, because you are responsible for the misbehavior. Some also people feel that boys and men scatter things. There are people who believe that if you leave boys here, like you don't have organized boys, like anybody who is male is not organized, and they go into marriage with that mindset that he's a man. No, it's not right. Being organized is part of being responsible, because you can't work in an organization where things should be kept in order and you are scattering things and you say because I'm a man. There are people who also believe that a man cannot be under a woman in terms of work. In fact, there are men who, when they come to an organization and the lead is a woman, they will not work there, because they feel that they say in my place we cannot be under. Who cares? It's about the job and not the gender. It's like one of us was saying at the last interview we just came out from. He said that you would rather have a public leader who is a woman that is responsible than a man who is a leader and is toxic, like what we are seeing in our current political life. So these are some of the myths that we have. There's also this notion that if you have children and the first one is a male, he should control maybe the family business or whatever. And the question I ask is, what if he's not interested? Or what if he doesn't have the competence and the capacity to run the business? Will you say because he's a male, he will not? No, he will run it down. He's going to run it down. So it's very important that we begin to, like we are advocating right now, that parents should begin to disabuse this in the minds of their children, and encourage their boys not to be feminine. That's what we're advocating for, but to accept their humanness as human beings, to be emotionally vulnerable when it is necessary, and to also create a safe space where other boys and men can come, and express themselves.
Let's talk about the means where men, like a coping mechanism that men venture into, whereby you start introducing yourself to substance abuse, even verbal abuse, physical abuse, and all that. What do you have to say about it?
Okay, so men are just trying to survive. We have so much expectation from society. Just like we are saying, men have actually resorted to looking for help where there is no help. Somebody is under maybe marital pressure from the home front. He has to pay the bills. He has to pay house rent, school fees. December is coming. You have to stock up the house. You have to take care of your in-laws. Maybe buy a cow for your father-in-law. Maybe there's because when you're going home for Christmas, maybe there's a family gathering. Your in-laws are all coming back from different parts of the world, and you're supposed to be responsible. You're supposed to provide, right? So in the midst, in order to accommodate, most men don't come home early because they want to hang out with the boys. They want to chill. They want to, release pressure and stress. So those are some of the coping mechanisms. And then for the substance abuse and other things that come with it, is because the home, most men, when they think of coming home, they are coming to a toxic environment. Women and children are supposed to also create that safe space. That's one of the things we are discussing, where a man is thinking of coming home. He's coming to a peaceful home. Jokingly, we were just discussing this morning, why was it mentioned in the Bible where it's better to stay in the roof of a house, than to live with a contention? It may not just be about the woman. It's about the environment. It's about the society. What's the expectation? You come into the workspace, then maybe the work environment, there's pressure, then you get home, expectations from all, So what we're saying essentially is that men should actually, the society, the family, which is like the best place where he's coming home from, should be able, even if I get to be overwhelmed at work or business. Imagine you're doing business in Obete, you're doing business in the market. You come home, maybe you didn't sell that day, and you're coming home to a house where the woman is saying there's no water, gas has finished, and all those things. You're under multiple pressure. Men will end up, that's why men break down with all kinds of health challenges, high blood pressure, diabetes, the heart condition, like my brother was saying. So those are things. What I would say is that if you're looking for help, find who to talk to. That's why you have brothers or around, friends that you can, that you can have society organizations where you see men to be able to. So another thing is that when we talk about men crying, is that if a man is boxed up a lot of pressure and there's nobody to talk to, like me, I share almost everything with my wife. Like when I mean, in fact, everything, because let me give you an instance. I come back from work and I'm saying, these are the challenges I had at work. And she knows everything. And she's like, okay, do this, don't do this. If you're not able to speak up, if you're not able to share your challenges, you keep dying, right?
You not get the help you need.
That's true.
Now, looking at the pressures that he has spoken about, the pressures that men face, let's look at the toll that it has on men's mental health and, just their mental well-being generally.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, he has already laid the foundation. I mean, the toll of, I gave some instances now, leading to death. Look at this young man, medical doctor, trying to save, and this is not the first time it's happened. We've had several cases, where we've had people like that who are saving people, just slump and that is the end. Because we have a culture of we don't have a maintenance culture where we don't take care of our personal health. So a lot of investments we made in mental health, also in emotional intelligence, because that's an area of self-awareness that we also don't invest in. We give this notion that okay, this is how we should be, and that is it. Just like she was suggesting now, nobody wants to unlearn what has been learned. That this thing is toxic. It has killed people before your time. Why can't you do your best to, unplug yourself from that environment and then plug into something that will also help to elongate your life? We also have the issue of a lack of education, and I don't just mean going to the classroom. Lack of being open to learning, skills that can help you, to manage your stress. Because truth is that a lot of, not just men, even women, we go through a lot of stress every day. The economy, we know how it is. Everybody trying to survive and everything and take care of family and dependents. So how are you able to manage stress in a way that, even though yes, you're not the maker of your life, you can't control what happens outside of you, but at least you can come to a point where you are able to create a balance, and live a more sustainable life.
Okay, so let's talk about men, how they communicate, expressing themselves. We just mentioned, bottling up your feelings and not talking about it. But the truth is, if you don't talk about it, we won't know.
Sure.
And that's the essence of communication.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, growing up, I realized that men do have a problem with communicating. Men feel like you don't have to talk. I have to be quiet. I don't have to express myself. I have actually met someone that expresses himself at any little inconvenience.
Okay.
And it felt different to me.
To you, yeah.
Yes,
that's
it
not
felt
what
different
you
because
grew up
why are
knowing.
you talking? You're supposed to be a man.
Yeah.
You bottle up your
Yes,
feelings.
yes.
But I realized that this is a human being, first of all.
Sure.
Exactly.
And this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
So why exactly do men keep bottling up? And what is that thing that you can actually say to the men out there to please express themselves? It won't kill.
Okay, thank you very much. It's like we said, those are stereotypes and myths. They are not. We're in 2025. We're not in 1905, right? Our culture has shifted in terms of, and we are exposed to a lot of information. If you Google anything now, you will get information on everything about everything, right?
Exactly.
So I think men should read a lot, right? It could be online, it could be hard copy. I buy a lot of books, and I know my friend only buys. We read a lot. One of the things that can help us, and also learn to, men do go into sports because they are also looking to how to. I remember a time I had to tell myself I need to start learning how to play lawn tennis, and I'd go to a 2D, and you see men, after playing, you just sit down, gist, relax, So by the time you belong to such organizations, it could be, if it's not sports, it could be anything, that you find interesting. It could be, a lot of organizations are like that. So men need to find a way to also relate and interact with other men. By the time you share your experiences, you find out you're not the only one dealing with such challenges, right? The same happened with boys in secondary school. That's why a lot of social clubs in schools, in secondary schools are very important for people like us who are in working now, who are experiencing these things, or we've gone through them. We need to go back and give back to these young boys in secondary schools, in primary schools. You find out there's a lot of cultism happening in secondary and primary schools because they don't see boys coming back to talk to them, that this thing is not the way to go. We've gone there, we've seen the damages and the consequences. If you go, so when they hear people like us who have gone through those walls of secondary and university and were seeing the challenges and the consequences of, one of the challenges why boys are not opening up is that you see boys who are maybe oppressed, who are bullied in school. So some of those things affect boys. By the time they grow up and become husbands and become fathers, it affects the way they also raise their children and raise their family. So what I'm saying essentially is that we need to encourage our boys to speak up. We need to encourage our boys to also invest in reading healthy contents that will help them to be able to manage, their responsibilities.
Okay. Now, I want to ask, do you think that men are safe spaces for themselves? Like men, both the older generation of men and the younger, do you think, because we've spoken about safe spaces,
Sure.
families, in, just environment generally, but do you think that men in their friend circle or in their small groups, both in schools and work, do you think that they are their own safe spaces where a man can come to his fellow man and they would have emotional conversations and actually
it's confidential.
And it's confidential.
Let me shock you. People, we don't associate men with gossiping, right? Yeah. So see this in our generation, a lot of things are happening. Boys want to become girls. Boys are not wired to gossip. But when a guy says, okay, he's trying to be feminine, one of the things we're advocating is about masculinity. When our introduction earlier, you see a man has to be a man. A boy is a boy. Let's separate. I can't tomorrow say, okay, I'm no longer a boy, because we are wired by God and nature to become, so if I'm talking to Onyina, it's boy to boy, I expect him to hold my secrets, protect me. That doesn't happen with you girls, I don't know. But I think girls don't. But on a lighter note, so I'm trying to answer your question. Boys, men, I know I have friends I can confide in.
And they won't mock you.
No, that's maturity, exactly. So I think it's a culture we need to keep, encouraging, that boys need to also find boys they can talk to, find men they can talk to. Mentorship is important. So when you have that kind of mindset and say, okay, if I share my challenges, there's some things men hold together. Some men won't even want to discuss with their wives, but they find a way to talk to the other men and other boys, even their parents.
I want to ask you, still on this topic, because I've seen situations where a guy will tell his fellow guy that he's going through something, and the other one will laugh and be like,
I'm okay.
What's your problem? They just joke about it. Some of the jokes are quite expensive, and they just laugh it off, and it's like life just goes on. So that's also part of the safe space I'm talking about, because another day, would that person want to talk, communicate?
And,
so I think I'll come in here. Just like, Kaji, for example, we've known for a very long time. We've known for more than these 17 years that we've known. And we've shared some things that nobody else knows about. And they are not bad things. Do you understand? They're just, a man comes to a stage in his life where he wants to make some decisions, or somebody did something or something, and he doesn't know, he just needs someone else to either affirm or say, this thing is wrong, bro. You shouldn't do this way. I get my point. But it doesn't go. It didn't just come by talking about it. There's trust. There's some level of I can't just see a random guy on the road and tell him my personal problems. Do you understand what I'm saying? It takes building of trust and confidence that, okay, this guy is my guy. If I share this thing with him, just like we also have female friends too, people that we grew up with. I have female friends who I've known for several decades. They tell me some things, but I lock it in. I just give advice and say, see what I think you should do. Don't do it this way, because they found someone that they can trust. They can share their burden with, and you're able to, but because we're discussing guys today, I think that there are informal safe spaces where guys come share. But the question is, do you know can you trust that this person will not go diverging it? Can this person protect you? And at the same time, can this person also tell you that, look, this thing you have done is either wrong or right, and see what I think. So for a young man who is out there listening and paying attention, before you share your personal things, please judge the character of the person you are dealing with. Can you take their confidentiality, can you take it to the bank? Like, can you really trust that if I tell this person this thing? So that's the reason why many men also find it hard to open up, because unlike women who have, there are places I can't count where you have your paddy, you have your sister. Some of you, your mom is even your confidant. Some of us, you tell your dad, he will tell them, my friend, will you get out of this place? What are you telling me? Because the men, even as a father, he's not exposed. But I can tell you that because of what we know, our children can confide in us and know that what I've told daddy, will not be taken for granted. He will not mock me, and he will not go sharing things I don't want him to share. Are you getting my point? So I think, that's why we're having this advocacy. That look, you don't even need to open an NGO to do it. It can just be a few of you who are friends, who have trusted each other along the way. You share your burden and share, because a problem shared is half solved. And the more you keep locking things inside, the more a church is also a very good place. Unfortunately, in many faith-based organizations now, you say one thing to a priest, he uses that same on the next Sunday. So people are very careful who they talk to. So my advice would be, before you get to divulge everything about your life to someone else, please judge the person's character. Judge that they can be dependable, they can be reliable. I'm not saying that the person should cover up if you have done something wrong. No. I'm saying check the person's ability to be dependable, to listen to you, to take what you've said, and to be a covering.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about how it affects marriages, relationships as a whole. Just like you mentioned that you tell your wife every single thing. There are men that their wives know nothing about them. Exactly. And tomorrow you ask the wife something about it, say, I have no idea. I don't know. And it's really sad because you are married to this person and you have no idea. How does this affect marriages as well?
Okay, thank you very much for that question.
And and why do men don't feel the need to communicate to their wives? I mean, that's your wives for a reason, to communicate as well.
Okay, so interestingly, when you get married, it's important for people to understand marriage is serious business. It's not contract. It's for life. I keep telling my wife that I'm in this for life. So if you understand how serious marriage is, you will know that you're in a lifetime business, right? Not just business, you're in a lifetime covenant. Because people need to separate contract and covenant. Marriage is not a contract. This is why people just think you can jump in and jump out. No, it's not like a second thought. You need to wake up as a man, as you're growing up, decide, I'm the last in my house. So I saw my brothers get married. I saw how serious marriage is, and I saw the challenges that they had, and I had to sit down and decide this is what I want out of marriage. So coming to your question, I decided, it was a personal decision to tell my wife the things I need to tell her from work, because if I don't open up, if I don't bottle up or share, I will explode one day. Exactly. So, and maybe because the way I was wired, growing up and then being the last child and all that. So I decided my wife is like my best friend. We had to share those things. And she also shares with me. We are very close to the point where if she's having issues, she also has to talk to me first, And we're encouraging each other. It's not perfect. It's not like it's rosy. We're all human beings, so we have emotional differences. I could say I'm the quiet type, right? So my wife is on the more aggressive type. So there has to be that balance, So for different people, there are marriages where the guy is the outspoken type, the aggressive type, and the wife is the quiet, maybe the reserve that doesn't go out and all those things. So you need to understand the personality of your partner or your wife or the couple to others understand how this can help in the marriage. Communication is key. We've had differences where we had to invite someone else to come and intervene. You need to have mentors to talk to. You need to have marriage counselors, people who have done it for years. We have different mentors in our marriage. That there are people someone he knows that I know that was our boss in where we worked in the bank some years ago. I'm still in touch with him. He's in his 70s. We still visit. My wife and I will take our daughter to go and see him. It's a culture. It's like every year we'll go and we'll sit down and we gist with him. What does he do? He helps you to learn from these people who are ahead of you and how they manage their own marriages. And they keep telling you communication is important. You need to be open. There's no need. Because if you start hiding things, when you're not there, of course, nobody knows when he will leave. If something happens to you tomorrow, most families have cases where the man is no more. The wife doesn't know his bank accounts, doesn't have access to his property, and the family will suffer it, right? You see the children being thrown out by their relatives because they don't have access to such assets. They don't have access to such investments demand. So I'm going to cheat my wife and my children if I don't open up to them. See, I have this property, I have this account. We have a joint account, right? Also, doesn't stop me from having my own personal accounts and other things, you know. And so it's on understanding. You have to balance these things. You're also coming from a family where you also have some responsibilities. So if you have an understanding where every family has to understand that both the nuclear and the extended family, the resources you have, both your relatives, your brothers, everybody is important. You need to share those information, share those resources to build, because at the end of the day, it's your children that will suffer it. If they don't have a healthy home, they will become abused, they will have issues, you know, become being relevant in the society.
True. Right. Now, the celebration today, International Men's Day. Now, apart from these celebrations where we come and we discuss these issues, what else can be done to, you know, build this momentum and support men's emotional well-being all year round, not just, you know, when we have celebrations like Boy Child or International Men's Day or things like that?
Okay, so for me, it should be a culture. You know, in this part of the world, government usually is at the spearheads a lot of things. We also need to have non-profits now that are coming up that invest in men's mental health, you know. But I think that the work we are doing still needs to be built on, you know. For us in my organizations, he has been partnering with us a lot when he has the time and supporting us also in financial and otherwise. We go to schools to talk to the boys about how to be men. When we get up, we have fora where we also speak to men, right? Churches should also go beyond celebrating Father's Day once a year to having days where, number one, fathers are given responsibility to speak about just like the things we are talking about. Let have a kind of panelist session. He did one in their church some weeks ago or months ago. Let the men come and speak about their pet, because if you don't know what is going on, the reason why the world over now we have different days for women: International Day of Women, African Day of Women, women in the fighting against emission of violence against women, is because women started speaking up.
Sure.
And some people thought it was a joke, but now even men are supporting women. There are men support groups for women.
Yeah.
You have men support groups that are supporting women. So men should begin to speak out for themselves. You know, I expect that, you know, on social media today, even if you don't have the time, you can just make a short post. You can just do a picture, post it, celebrate men. If we at home, mommy, please celebrate your husband. Tell the children that today is International Men's Day. Let's celebrate daddy. Let's celebrate your uncles. You can just call your dad. Daddy, I know you don't know how important this is, but I want to wish you happy International Men's Day. And the men should come together, even in the corporate space. You can come together, organize a training, 1 hour, 30 minutes. Invite a psychologist or a mental health counselor to talk to you. Invite a finance expert. As a man, how do you manage finances? Invite a family expert. There are many things that can be done, you know, that will not have to cost so much, you know. But these are some of the ways that, you know, we can advocate for men, you know, all year round.
All right then. So let's talk about social media.
Okay.
If it was the Women's International Day or Girlfriend's Day, we'd
The
see
balls, the
flowers,
noise.
Yeah, the flowers you are
chocolates,
talking about.
roses, everything trending on social media.
Sure.
But what is happening? Even the men themselves are not saying anything. That
Okay.
today is International Men's Day. What
Yeah.
is wrong? Is it the same bottling up your feelings that is going on right now?
Okay, I think it's the awareness. Okay, I think it's also the consciousness. You know, when you go to social media now, if you try to Google, you will see maybe people and have small posts and all those things. I think it's back here in Nigeria and back here in Southeast. I think it's the consciousness. I'm very impressed with the fact that we have having this session and you guys are bringing out time to do it. That's what every organization, both the media, you know, the traditional media should do, to just send out the message out there to encourage. You know, a lot of people don't even remember there is International Ball Child Day too as well, and all those things. Or you know, so it's the awareness. It's also the fact that men need to also celebrate themselves. Like he said, it's important that men can also do that, gather together, you know, hang out, and also see, okay, this is, you know. So for me, it's just the awareness. It's also the how intentional men can be to, you know, this thing has a way of creating that awareness and say, okay, this is men celebrating men and all that, and you know, so it's just the awareness and the opportunity to celebrate men.
Now, you've interacted with a lot of young boys and young men. And so far, from your interactions with them and the training sessions and everything, how would you say that the response has been to what you're teaching them and how they're adapting to learning healthier ways of being a man?
Okay, thank you very much. I remember the last outreach we had was in Ngu. We had over 200 boys. Only remind me. And it was an amazing experience because just 2 days ago, I even forgot to tell you, one of the boys chatted me with the parents' phone that he's been reading the book I gave him, and it made me feel good. It made me happy the whole day. And I tried to respond because I was driving. So by the time I parked, it was on Monday, I responded to him, replied, hope you're doing, check up on him and all that. The truth is that I grew up in a secondary school in UNN, and being an environment in secondary school, I remember that we had people come to talk to us and outreaches and all those things. Now, what I think is going on is that a lot of us are not even spending time to reach out to these boys. Going back to your secondary school, I remember I shared a post recently. The popular Chimamanda Adichie went back to our secondary school. Her set donated a block of classrooms, and CNN came to interview her. And it's true, she was talking. There's a video where she was just talking to the girls. And I told myself that this is something, it made so much sense, those girls seeing Chimamanda Adichie live. It's not like they've read her books, she came to Enugu, she had a session, and she went down to Suka. For me, it's giving back, and it's also knowing that these people need help. If we don't do it, we are men today, we are successful in our business, we are married, we are trying to raise our homes, because our parents, mentors, people that we met in life, spend time to invest in us. All right, so I get the feedbacks from young people I interact with in our different levels, and it makes me feel good. And that's the only much we can do. She made a statement that if you can, give back. That's because where you are, who you are today, is formed and nurtured by the experiences you had growing up. And I think that's for me.
Okay, so just to round off this conversation, what practical steps can be implemented in communities, families, churches, whichever gathering it is, in order to, help shape the men and also support their mental health?
Okay, first of all, my message to men is, at your own level, just do what you can do at your own level. Love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, you won't be able to love others. Many toxic men are bound in relationships because they really don't love themselves. So love yourself, open yourself up to, conversations that will help you unbundle all your trauma and everything, and seek healing if possible.
Sure.
If you're a young man, don't go into any relationship. Go and seek healing.
Counseling, therapy.
Get counseling, so that you can unbundle whatever it is. So you don't go, innocent young lady want to now stress her life with all the, our young boys, we need to mentor them. I said at the beginning of this program, you don't need to start an NGO. We just have the privilege of doing it, because for a while now, but because it comes with a lot of financial implications, but at your own level, it could be boys on the streets. Gather them together. You can use your little money, talk to a few neighbors on your streets. Christmas is coming. Sure. Gather boys in the neighborhood, organize a football league, give awards to the best, then you can give them refreshments, and then use the opportunity of talking to them about how to be responsible. If you can go to if you're a teacher in your school, organize events in your school where you gather boys and let them know about what it means to be a man. Then if you have the means, there are different fora. You mentioned churches, community organizations. I've been part of major mega projects where we reach out to leaders in communities to reach out to the men, because this is that the men, some men even know that they need this kind of things, but they don't know how to express it. So go to the community, do a baseline, find out what kind of intervention do you need in terms of social, emotional, mental, development, and then find experts who can, bridge that gap. You just mentioned the one we did at Ungo recently, the Ungo Boys Summit. That's one of the ways you can, fill, that gap, and then let it be consistent. Sure. Because you can't achieve so much. I have a monthly program that I'm privileged to be one of the coordinators. Every first Sunday of the month, we gather men together, young men between 18 and 60, and we share different things. And you need to see how light they feel when they have come and they go. We share food, of course. It has financial implication, but we are doing something. He has a group that he belongs to too, where men, in fact, when we are coming this morning, one of us who is a lecturer that is also one of, he came down from his car. He's traveling to Oka, but he came down for his car, embraced and says, Happy International Men's Day. You are going for this program. I want to wish you all the best. Please represent us very, very well.
Yeah.
You know, and then I want to give kudos because we mentor boys a lot. There are mothers who go out of their way to bring their sons to us. They feel that their husbands are not able to provide the necessary, you know,
because they are busy, they don't have the time.
So they bring their sons to us to mentor them. So I want to say a very big thank you to them, and we'll keep doing our best to encourage. Let's see whether in the next, you know, 10, 20, 15 years, just like the boy that he gave his testimony, if we have more boys than that, then our daughters are safe, our families are safe, then our country is better for it.
Wow, that's a good one.
I don't think this conversation should end soon, but who am I not to end it now? Thank you so much for joining us, Onye Kachiku and Onye Kachi. The name is so confusing. Exactly.
And we're colleagues before, we work together.
So that's interesting. So our conversation was on Men Don't Cry, Facts and Fictions. Of course, our guest Onye Kachiku Asadu joined us in the studio. He's the CEO of the Building Boys Academy. And our other guest, Onye Kachi Anochiri Onye, who is the Senior Sales Manager, Tennis Professional Services. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
And if you're a boy, you need help, maybe you should try exorcism. If maybe prayers will not help you, because I don't understand. Because I don't understand what is going on.
No, it's a step-by-step process.
Of course, baby steps. Baby
Thank
steps.
you.
Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Of course, this is where we draw the curtains. No, okay. Of course, I am Quincy Roland, and
yes, what an interesting conversation, and we look forward to having healthier men and boys and males in our society. I am Uchenna Chimbi Olwoha, and Signature Morning continues right after this break. Do stay with us.